In the summer of 1942, Adolf Hitler made a decision that would permanently alter the course of the Second World War when he ordered his armies east toward a city that carried the name of his greatest enemy, Stalingrad, believing that capturing it would not only cut Soviet supply lines along the Volga River, but also deliver a devastating symbolic blow to Joseph Stalin himself. And from the very beginning, this decision was driven less by strategy and more by obsession, because Stalingrad represented pride, ideology, and dominance rather than pure military necessity. And as German forces advanced, they believed victory was inevitable, unaware that they were marching toward one of the deadliest traps in military history. By August 1942, the German Sixth Army reached the outskirts of the city, and the Luftwaffe unleashed relentless bombing raids that turned Stalingrad into a sea of fire and rubble, destroying entire neighborhoods, factories, hospitals, and homes, killing tens of thousands of civilians in a matter of days before ground combat even began. Yet the destruction did not break Soviet resistance as intended, because the ruins created the perfect environment for close-quarters warfare where German tanks and coordinated maneuvers became almost useless, and every shattered building turned into a deadly stronghold defended by desperate soldiers with nothing left to lose. Soviet troops were issued a brutal order that defined the battle, not one step back, meaning retreat was punishable by execution, and many soldiers were sent into combat with rifles but no ammunition, instructed to pick up weapons from fallen comrades, while others charged enemy positions knowing they would likely die within hours, sometimes minutes, as life expectancy for a Soviet infantryman in Stalingrad was terrifyingly short. The fighting quickly descended into what German soldiers called Rattenkrieg or Rat War, a savage struggle fought room by room, stairwell by stairwell, basement by basement, where a single building could change hands multiple times in one day, and hand grenades, knives, and bare hands became more important than rifles, while snipers turned the ruins into silent killing fields and fear became constant. Sleep disappeared, and the dead froze where they fell, never to be recovered. As autumn gave way to winter, conditions grew unimaginably worse, with temperatures plunging below -30 degrees Celsius, freezing weapons, jamming artillery, stopping engines, and killing wounded men before medics could reach them, while German supply lines stretched impossibly thin and food shortages became severe, forcing soldiers to survive on frozen horse meat or nothing at all. Yet despite these realities, Hitler categorically refused any retreat, insisting that Stalingrad must be held at all costs, promising that the Luftwaffe would resupply the army by air, a promise that proved to be a fatal illusion as aircraft could deliver only a fraction of the food, fuel, ammunition, and medical supplies required to sustain hundreds of thousands of men. In November 1942, while German forces remained locked in brutal urban combat, the Soviet Union launched Operation Uranus, a massive counteroffensive that deliberately targeted the weaker Axis flanks guarding the German Sixth Army, and within days Soviet armored units punched through Romanian and Hungarian lines, encircling more than 300,000 German and Axis troops inside Stalingrad, cutting off all escape routes and transforming the city into a giant prison of hunger, cold, and despair. Inside the encirclement, conditions rapidly collapsed into hell as food rations were slashed to starvation levels. Ammunition was rationed to a few bullets per day, medical supplies vanished, frostbite claimed fingers, toes, and entire limbs, disease spread uncontrollably, and soldiers resorted to eating rats, boiling leather belts, and scavenging anything organic, while morale disintegrated as it became increasingly clear that no rescue was coming. German commanders pleaded desperately with Hitler for permission to attempt a breakout while there was still a chance, but he forbade surrender and ordered the army to fight to the last man, clinging to fantasies of relief operations that never materialized, and as weeks passed, entire units collapsed without combat, surrendering simply to survive another day. By January 1943, Soviet forces began crushing the encircled German sector by sector, advancing slowly but relentlessly through the frozen ruins, capturing thousands of exhausted, half-starved soldiers who no longer had the strength or will to resist, and on February 2, 1943, the unthinkable finally occurred when the German Sixth Army formally surrendered, marking the first complete destruction of a German field army in the war and shattering the myth of Nazi invincibility that had dominated Europe since 1939. The human cost of Stalingrad was almost beyond comprehension, with more than 2 million total casualties including dead, wounded, and captured, approximately 500,000 killed, 91,000 German soldiers taken prisoner, of whom only about 6,000 would ever return home, while entire Soviet divisions were annihilated and the civilian population was effectively erased. Stalingrad did not end the war, but it irrevocably changed its direction, as Germany was forced onto the defensive for the remainder of the conflict, losing initiative, resources, and morale, while the psychological impact echoed far beyond the battlefield, proving that the Wehrmacht could be defeated and that Hitler's decisions were driven by ideology rather than reality. In the end, Stalingrad was not a single battle but a prolonged human catastrophe, a place where endurance mattered more than brilliance, where survival replaced strategy, and where a city of ruins consumed one of the most powerful armies in history, not through speed or technological superiority, but through relentless attrition, unimaginable suffering, and the refusal of millions to surrender their ground, making it the moment the war truly turned and ensuring that the road to Berlin would eventually be paved with the memory of Stalingrad.